Hello everybody and welcome back to the multiplayer project, where I feel like I've been starting a lot of episodes this way, but seeing our motion from game state updates is going to be delayed. All we're going to do this episode is chat. We need to do a couple of things here, but this is going to give us a pretty robust chat infrastructure, and we'll be able to make flexible channels as well a little bit later on. But that is not going to be what we're going to do today. Today we're just going to have a set number of chat channels. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into our chat server.cs here, and we are going to start working on this. Although, before we do that, I want to address one small thing in our game manager. And that is, or rather, not in our game manager, but rather our entity here. And that is this 1f over game manager.gamespeed. Well, technically, yes, this math, as far as I can tell, is correct. Like, I've done research on this because this is not, like, it's moving 10 times slower than it should be, right? So I've looked it up, I've thought it over, and I'm just like, this should in theory work, but I know why it doesn't, because this math doesn't evaluate the way I expected it to. So for right now, all we're doing is we're saying that our delta time is equal to 0.1f, and that is our seconds per update. Excellent. And then in our on tick here, we need to do one small thing here, and we're just going to split off this AND statement into its own if. So if our position is not equal to desired position, then we want to say if our desired position length squared is greater than or equal to the amount of distance that we will cover, then we want to have it cover that distance. Otherwise, we want it to just snap to the position because it's not as far as it can possibly go. So that's just position equals desired position. And no, I don't want to search. I want to do a semicolon and then save. Okay, so that will give us the correct, or rather the expected result. This delta time is going to have to change later on, but for now it'll do, and we'll just move on from that. So now let's hop over to our chat server, and we're going to make this be a public static class. And then we are going to have this have a region here, and this will be channels. Then we'll end that region. And then we'll do a region init here. And then we'll end that region. And then we will do one more region chatting. Not chanting, chatting. End region. There may be some chanting involved. Who can tell? Okay, so in the initiation here, we're going to need a public static server reference. And I could put this in a public fields region. I'm lazy. So we're just going to use the init region here. And we're going to do public static void init. And inside of that init, we're going to need to do a few things. But first, let's hop over to the server here. And when we are initializing, actually we need to go up to initialization. When we're initializing our game manager, we need to do the same thing for the chat server.server equals this, and chat server.init. Excellent. So we'll call that. Now we'll need to have some actual channels here. And there's going to be 4 overall channels. Well, really more 3 overall channels that everyone is going to be in by default. So we'll do public static chat channel world trade LFG. And then other channels are whisper, guild, and what was the other one that I was thinking of? No, it's just whisper and guild for right now. Those are things that we're not going to, well, we'll worry about whisper, but we're not going to worry about guild just yet. Now, obviously, the chat channel class doesn't exist, so let's create that. We'll do an add new item. This will be a CS script, and this will be a class, so chat channel.cs. Excellent. Now this will be a pretty simple class. There's not going to be a whole lot here, but we will need to make this a public class. So we will do so. And then we will have a couple of things here. So we'll have a region. This will be our public fields. We'll enter that region. And then we'll also have a couple of other things outside of here. I'm not sure it's really worth creating a region for, but we'll do a public string channel name, which will be somewhat important. And then we will also have a region here for private fields. We'll end that region. And inside of this, we will have a couple of things, but we'll also do a region. I have decided to do the regions for this. Public references. And then we'll end that region. Excellent. Now inside of this, we will need... This is actually going to be a private reference. Private references. So we'll do private server. And that will be set in the constructor. In the private fields, we are going to have a private list of session subscribed sessions. And that will be a new list of sessions. Excellent. We're also going to have a static field here, which is a private static string builder SB equals new string builder, because we're going to have to very frequently use a string builder to create messages to send out. So we'll just declare a static one here that we can constantly reuse. Although now that I think about it, I'm using a string.format. I'll change that when we actually implement this. Yeah, that's going to be a thing. So the channel name here, we don't actually need any other public fields, so that's fine. We will need a region constructors. And then inside of that, we are going to do public chat channel, string channel name, as well as server. So when we create the chat channel, we will need that information. So we'll say this.channel name equals channel name. We will say this.server equals server. Wonderful. And we'll initialize that from the chat server here in the init function. So let's do that. We'll just initialize ourselves our 3 chat channels. So world equals new chat channel. This is going to be called world, and the server is server. And now I'm just going to copy and paste that twice. Like that, and then we'll change this to trade, and this one to LFG, and we'll also change the names trade and LFG. Excellent. So now we will need a couple of functions, but let's first hop over to our server.cs, and we'll implement those functions as needed. So we'll hop over to server here. And when we receive a chat command, right here, we're going to need to change this quite a lot because it currently doesn't do anything. So we are going to get rid of this for right now. And just to make sure that we understand how exactly this works, the command is formatted as command type equals 0, channel equals whatever channel it would be. For now, we'll say world. Message equals, in parentheses, message. So that when we are splitting it out, we don't split up any commas that are inside of this. Excellent. So component 0 is command type equals 0. Component 1 is channel equals, and then I'm going to use square brackets here as a placeholder, channel name. We don't really know what that is, but it's whatever the channel name happens to be. And then component 2 is message equals, and then in parentheses, I'm just going to use ... to indicate that there's a message here. In parentheses to not break the regex. Okay, there we go. So we know that there needs to be 3 components, right? So let's just copy this if statement here If components.length is not equal to 3, then we have the wrong parameter count for this command, and we should return an IP error. Otherwise, if we have the right number of parameters, then we're going to need to figure out a couple of things. First off, the chat message itself and the destination. So for the chat message itself, we would take component 2, but let's do the destination first. String destination equals, this will be components1, because we want to know what this channel equals, and this channel could be a player name as well. We'll need to keep that in mind. So destination equals components1 dot split. We want to take out the equal sign, and we're only interested in this portion here, so we will take position 1 in the array. And that gets us our destination. And then we will also say string chat message equals, and this will be components2, because we're interested in this, dot split. We're only interested in the positions after the equal sign, so we'll do the same thing there, but we're also going to dot trim, and we're going to trim off the opening and the closing parentheses, because we're not interested in those either. We only need those there to not get split by the regex. Wonderful. So now we'll need to figure out what channel this belongs to. Supported channels will be instance, world, trade, LFG, guild, and whisper. Now, for guild, we're going to come back to that. That'll be part of our social features. But we're not going to support that for right now. But we'll have it in the thing. So we'll do switch destination, because we're interested in the destination here. In the case of instance, then we will break. There's a few other cases that we'll need here. World. There's the case trade. There's the case... Oh, that was not correct. There's the case LFG. There's the case guild. And then there's the case... Actually, this is just default. This is a whisper attempt, if it's none of the others up here. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to need 2 methods to implement this, but at the end of this, if we make it through this switch statement, we know that we've attempted some form of chat. So we should return so that we don't accidentally return this IP error, and we'll just get rid of this break statement because that's now unreachable. Excellent. So now we need to figure out what happens if we communicate on instance chat. So we need to do chat server.send broadcast, which does not exist. We want to send that on client session.instance.channel, which does not exist. And then we want to do client session.loggedin character as well as chat message. And we'll implement all of this. First things first, let's hop over to session here. We want to make sure that we have no more instance ID here, and we want to do public instance. We just want a straight up reference to the instance now. That's much more useful to us. So we then also need ourselves a chat method here. So we'll go ahead and, oh, that's the wrong Visual Studio selected. We'll go ahead and create a region chatting. Not endif, and region. There we go. And we'll just do that. There we go. So we will need 2 methods here. That is public static void send broadcast chat channel string sender and string message. And all that'll do is channel.broadcast message, sender, and message. Okay, so that obviously doesn't exist, so let's implement that. So in here, we will go ahead and create ourselves a couple of methods. We will need, and actually, we'll do another region here, session management, end region. Okay, let's go ahead and put in a few methods here. We're going to need 3 in total. So we'll do a public void broadcast message. We'll pass in the string sender, as well as the string message. Excellent. Then we will iterate through all of our... This is in the chat server. Hang on. This needs to be in the chat channel. What am I doing? What have I done? Okay, that's what I did. Roger that. I'm just in the wrong place. We'll get rid of that. And we want that to be over here in the chat channel, which of course, this needs to be in the chat server. I apologize, I got slightly confused there. So the send broadcast channel.broadcast message needs to be in chat server. The chat channel over here will get its own public void broadcast message, and that'll take in string sender and string message. And then in here we will say for int I equals 0, I is less than subscribed sessions.count, I++. The channel will then say server.send, and we'll send in message types.cht, which doesn't exist yet, and this will be string.format, although we're going to do that with a string builder. So we're going to say sb.clear here, and then we will do sb.toString, and then we will also say subscribed sessions I.address is where we're sending it. Okay, so now the SB needs to be set up so that it is essentially something along the lines of this. sb.append, we're going to append in, at this point, channel name. We're going to do sb.append a comma. We're now going to append the sender. We will append another comma. And then we will append in the message, but in parentheses. So we're going to do an opening parenthesis, and then append in the message, and then a closing parenthesis. So sb.append the closing parenthesis, like that. Okay, and then that will send that message type, and that is a message type CHT, which of course we need to add to our comms enums. So that is CHT, and that is going to be chat message, and then all this is header, sender, message, I believe. Maybe a channel name? Let me double check that. Header, channel, message. But that also includes a sender. So, header, channel, sender, message. There we go. That's more like it. Okay. So that gives us our broadcast message in the chat channel. There's 2 more things that we need to do in here. And session management should also be in chat channel. There we go. Instead of in chat server. So do public void add session, session. And of course, all this is subscribed sessions.add session. And then public void remove session. We could have this be just a publicly exposed list that we manually add to, but we might want to expand this later on and have it do a few more things when we do this. So it'll be better to just do it this way. And then we'll do subscribe sessions.remove session. Excellent. Now let's hop back to the server here, and this now compiles, but I want to hop down to process CEW message here when we are putting in our client session here. we want to make sure that we also subscribe them to the default chat channels. Let's add them to the default chat channels too. So we're going to do chat server.world.add session. This will be client session. We're going to do chat server.lfg.add session, client session. And we're also going to do chat server.trade.add session and client session. And then we should say we'll need to check for guild later on too. Okay. So there's that. Now let's come back up over here because we need to implement the rest of these chat types. So when we do a world chat, we want to basically copy this here. We want to do a send broadcast, but we want to instead send this on chat server.world, and I'm just now noticing that client session.instance.channel doesn't exist. That is correct. We want to come over here to instance, and all we need to do here is add in a public chat channel. Excellent. And when we create the instance, we're also going to want to pass in a server, and we will say channel equals new chat channel, and this is going to be instance will be the name, and it will be assigned to the server. Excellent. So that's all we should need to do there, except in the server that will break one more thing, if I recall correctly. No issues found? I was under the impression that would break it when we create a new instance here. It absolutely should. This should be giving us a compiler error. Yeah, there were build errors. I'm guessing it's because... Oh, because this doesn't update correctly. Okay, so in the game manager, we need to change this. Yes, I had not forgotten about this, but this definitely needed to change. This can be simplified pretty dramatically, and that's just subscribed sessions i.instance.getStateUpdate now. Okay, let's check for other errors here. Yes. Here when we do a create instance call, we need to pass in key server, like that. And then instead of s.instanceID, it's just s.instance equals new instance. Okay. Wonderful. Now we should have no errors. So if we pop back over here, yes, that is correct. Wonderful. Okay, so let's get back to this nonsense over here. So for trade, we're just going to copy this in exactly as it is, but this will be in trade. For LFG, we'll do the same thing. This should then be LFG. And for guild, same thing. This should be guild. Now, default for a whisper attempt, we're going to handle this a little bit differently. This, of course, doesn't exist because we didn't declare it. So for right now, we're just going to comment this out. But if it's a whisper attempt, then we should do chat server.sendWhisper. And that is going to be destination, client session, and chat message that takes in. Of course, send whisper doesn't exist, so let's hop over to chat, or rather to chat server, yeah. And let's go ahead and implement that. So that is going to be a public static void send whisper, and that is going to be string recipient, session sender, and string message that we take in here. So first thing we need to do is get the client session of recipient. So to do that, we're going to say session equals server.getSession, which doesn't exist yet, of recipient. Okay, so we'll hop over to server and implement that. We'll hop down to client handling here, and check for timeout is something that we definitely need to be doing, but we'll come back to that. I say as I know full well that we'll never come back to that. Actually, no, we're definitely coming back to that one. So we're going to implement this as public session get session string character name. And this is maybe not the best way to do this, but this is how we're going to do it. We're going to say session equals null. Return session. Of course, that'll just return null every time, but I did that so that it would compile. And then for each key value pair, IP endpoint, and session, S in sessions, then we're just going to check to see if s.value.loggedin character equals character name. And if that's the case, then we are going to say session equals s.value, and we will then break out of this for each iterator. Excellent. So that's all we're going to do there. So that will get us our session eventually. That might be slow, but if so, we can optimize that a bit later on. We need to check, though, to see if the session equals null, because it can return null if it doesn't find anyone. If that's the case, no such character. And we should do server.send message types.cmr, and we're going to send an IC error, which doesn't exist yet, and we'll send that to sender.address. Let's hop over to the client quickly and implement an IC error. So in the net manager here, if we receive an IC error, then we're going to do case IC. And we're just going to copy in this add job line right here. And instead of unauthorized action, we're going to say command failure, no such character found. Excellent. Now back in the server, we're going to check out over here. Okay, we have all of this implemented. Is that everything? On the server side anyway? I think that might be everything on the server side. I'm just double checking here. Chat server, yeah, that seems correct. Does this compile? It does indeed. Okay. So we are actually going to close this for right now. And we're going to work a little bit on the client. Now we need to work on the client chat box, and chat should be in here. There we go. We need to work on this a little bit because this is not actually formatting exactly correctly for sending these commands, or rather this chat command, because this chat command is a little bit different from our other commands. So we're going to go ahead and pull that open on the other monitor here. There we go. So for case chat, we don't actually need to set the command type. We will do this ourselves. And we don't actually want to send this command, so we will simply return so that this compiles, because command type isn't necessarily set. So we will then do string channel equals command inputs 1. Command inputs... Wow. Inputs 1. There we go. So we know that that's the channel that we're looking for. And then it starts to get a little complicated from there, because essentially the chat command, and I'm going to delete this in a moment, but the chat command looks like this, right? So it's /chat world and then some text like that. Now, we don't want to actually split all of this with this split. It will happen anyway, but we don't actually want this to be split up. We don't want to have to require that parentheses be put around here. So we're going to support not doing that. So we're going to say int after channel index equals, this will be the chat input.text.index of, this will be a space. Now that'll give us the first space, but we want to start after chat input.text.index of the first space. And then this will give us the second space, like that. Excellent. Then we need to get our message, so string message equals chat input text substring, and that would be everything after the channel index. Wonderful. So we have our channel, we have our message, and now we can do GameUI.NetManager.send command, and this will be a string.format, and we're going to pass in command. We're just making this string manually because this is actually formatted differently from the regular commands, and we might change the commands to be a little bit more like this. But we're going to need a double bracket here because this is a string.format. Command equals 0. Channel equals parameter 0. Message equals, in parentheses, channel 1. And then 2 closing curly brackets so that it gets properly escaped. And we'll pass in channel and message. Excellent. Okay. So we will go ahead and test this. I imagine I forgot to do something, and it's going to break terribly. But let's see if I can figure it out. So we'll do ASDF and ASDF. And as soon as it finishes the encryption handshake, we'll log in. It's not there yet. Funnily enough, it was going faster in the Sandbox project. But they were literally the same thing. Like, I overwrite the Sandbox with the current project every time. Let's go ahead and enter the world. And we'll do /chat world. And this will be... We'll just put in ASDF, ASDF. Okay. I did forget something. The server didn't have any issues with it. The client kind of did. Now, we're going to hop into here because I forgot to do one major thing here, and that is when we finish this here, and actually I said I was going to delete this, but we should go ahead and do that. Now, we did forget one thing here, and that is that we need to call onEndChat input. And then we also forgot something in the comsenums, and that is that we need to be passing in our same chat message here. So I'll just copy that and paste that here. Excellent. And we need to handle when we receive a chat message. We'll do case message types dot CHT. Say CHT message with some chat. Excellent. We're just going to grab this add job here. And we're going to say UI manager.show modal, except we're not going to show the modal. We are instead going to do UI manager game UI chatbox add chat message, and this would be content. Now, in reality, we're going to want to parse this, right? And we're going to want to format it a little more nicely. But for now, we'll just pass this in, and we can maybe do that actually in add chat message here. And we could do like bool parse equals false. Okay, and then we would say something like if parse do something with... Wow, I can't type. with text. Okay, something along the lines of that. So, we know what it's going to be, right? But let's actually test this and see if this works. First, I want to hop over here, and I want to set this to true, because we do want to parse this, and we don't want to parse it in cases like this. So that's fine. Let's go ahead and fire up the server. And we'll fire up the client. And await that sweet, sweet encryption handshake. Takes way too long. Well, that wasn't too bad that time. So we'll go ahead and log in, and we will say /chat world ASDF. So you can see here it put in world ASDF ASDF. Wonderful. Okay, so with that there, we now can go ahead and parse this out real quick. And this is at this point live development, so things can potentially get a little exciting. I wasn't planning on doing this, but we have a little time, and I figure we may as well. So let's hop over here, and we can say string texts equals text.split, and we'll split that on the commas, except we actually want to do that with the regex to ignore inside those parentheses. So let's go over to our net manager here, and where's that regex call? We want to use exactly the same regex, and I just want to copy and paste it. Like, I've forgotten where it is. It's in the CMD. Where's the CMD parsing? Or I guess it's actually not in the CMD, is it? It is actually in entity. Okay, so we're going to just copy this into chat box, and instead of doing this split call here, we're just going to paste this here. And regex we're going to need to, of course, do using system.text.regular expressions, and this would be text that we pass in here. So 0 is our channel, correct? I cleared it. Or rather, it cleared itself. I'm pretty sure 0 is channel. But I can double check that by hopping over to the other project here and pulling open the server, which is the wrong one. There we go. This is still not the server. This is the server. Excellent. And then we can just simply say 0 is our channel, 1 is our sender, 2 is our message. So we would then say something like text equals string.format, and this is going to be something along the lines of a timestamp. So this would be a 0 here, and then a space in brackets, 1, and then 2, colon, space, 3 would be the format of our message. And then that would be system.datetime.now.toString. And we probably just want to do a very simple format here. Hours, minutes, seconds. There we go. And then this needs to be our channel. So this would be components 0. And then we need components 1 for our sender. And then for our message, components 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and test that. And yeah, I'm not surprised that the server just crashed. I'm not surprised by that at all, because this almost certainly just closed its connection when it reloaded. And yes, like I said previously, I do actually want the server to crash when things go wrong right now. We will make it be more stable later on. But for now, I want to be well aware that things are going haywire. So we'll wait for our encryption handshake here, and that will happen right about now. Then we'll log in, and we'll do /chat world ASDF ASDF. Hey, look at that! We're not trimming off our parentheses. That is definitely something that we need to do. Okay. We'll also try /chat ASDF ASDF. Okay, so the whispering didn't exactly work. And it didn't throw an error on the server. That's interesting. And let's just try sending it in LFG. LFG, ASDF, ASDF. Excellent, we just received it on the LFG channel. So why didn't the Whisper work? Well, that's a good question, and I think we'll tackle that right now. But before we do that, I want to stop the server and make sure that we are doing .trim here, and we want to make sure that we are trimming off our opening and closing parentheses here. Okay, so there's that. Now the question is, why did the Whisper not work? It didn't send an IC error. Oh, it didn't work because I didn't finish the method. I'm a moron. Okay, so if we come down here, we then do server.send, and we want to do a message types.cht, and then we want to do string.format, and then this would format it as a Whisper 0, and then in parentheses 1, and then that sends as sender message, and then we send that to sender.address, or not sender.address, to session.address. And if there is no such character, we need to return because we know that there's no such session. Okay. So that'll do fine. In theory, this should now actually work. The server should now send us the correct whisper, even if we're whispering ourselves. And we have a syntax error here. It is expecting another closing parenthesis. There we go. That should now work fine. Okay, let's wait for this sweet, sweet encryption handshake. Any moment now, encryption handshake. There we go. Excellent. We'll go ahead and log in, and we will /chat ASDF, 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 ASDF. Channel MMO server.netcode.session. Of course. Yeah, that would happen. So we received a whisper there. That's nice. We whispered it to ourselves, but that's fine. And it didn't output the name correctly, so we will go ahead and fix that real quick here. We'll stop the server. And that's because we need to do sender.loggedin character here. I don't know why I didn't do that. That's a very silly thing to do. And then let's relaunch the server. Relaunch the client here. But this gives us a chat system that we can extend and utilize however we want, pretty much. So that is wonderful. As soon as the encryption handshake finishes up here, we'll verify that this is all working. And we can make the actual chat command a little bit more intuitive once we are... once we have this ready to go. So, of course, eventually we want to not have to do /chat ASDF. Hello there. Like, that works, but it's not the most efficient way. Ideally, we want to do /w ASDF, and that would whisper the person. And then if we want to do /global, it would be, you know, like, or rather /world, it would be maybe just /world and then /LFG and so on and so forth. And then we just put in our message. But those would be abstractions of the chat command, and that's something that we can definitely do later. So for right now, /chat world. Hello. Okay, so now we can correctly chat on these various different channels. Wonderful. So that is definitely progress. What happens if we try to whisper somebody that doesn't exist? So, /chat will say ASDFA. That character is not currently logged in. Although, that character did exist, but I believe we've since deleted it. But that is irrelevant. This will only check logged in characters. Hello. Command failure. No such character found. Wonderful. That is ideal. And then let's also do /move, and then we'll send this to, say, 1, 2, 3. Excellent. And you should notice that this starts moving much more quickly at a pace of actually 1 unit per second. There we go. And it ends exactly at the desired position. Unlike with some of my testing, the previous code could end slightly before that position, if that position was not an even multiple. So, like, for example, if we were to do /move 2.5, 3.8, 75.3. Well, it'll take a little bit to get there, because I chose 75.3 for some reason. But, that would not, under the previous code, end at exactly the desired location, which we definitely want it to do. But hey, this is progress. So let's go ahead and do /whisper ASDF. Hello. How do parentheses work? Let's find out. Comma, comma, comma. Oh, invalid command name whisper, of course. Because we need to do /chat ASDF. Hello. How do, comma, 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 parentheses, typoing it, but whatever, work? Let's find out. Invalid parameters. Interesting. Why did that give us an invalid parameter? Hello? That removed the trailing parenthesis there. As I would expect, actually, now that I think about it. Let's do /chat ASDF. Hello? 2 trailing parentheses. Yeah, it removes all of those. Okay, we actually only wanted to remove 1. So maybe instead of trim, we should do substring there. And we're still moving. Or actually, no, we've arrived at the location now. Yeah, let's do, instead of trim, let's do substring. So this would be .substring. And then this would be 1. And our length would be components 2.length minus 2. Okay, let's just test that real quick. And that should now work. And we'll also see... Come on. Okay, I may have broken it. I think I broke Unity by stopping its play. Oh, nope. There we go. Okay, I'm going to stop it and run this again. And we are going to... I think it's waiting on the encryption handshake. The previous encryption handshake. Okay, we're going to stop this again. And we're going to close this. We're going to rerun the server. And we will run the client. If the client goes. The client appears to not want to go. Okay, that's nice. I'll fire up Task Manager here, and that briefly destroyed the OBS recording, but hopefully that won't be too bad. And we'll need to close, I believe it's this Unity editor. Yes, indeed. We'll fire up Unity again. And we'll hit this up. And I'll relaunch the server just to be on the safe side. Okay, Unity, you can do it. There you go, buddy. Oh, Unity sometimes has a hard time with things. Now we're waiting for the encryption handshake. There we go. And we will get logged in, and we will say /chat ASDF. Hello, in parentheses. Ah, it still didn't work. It's probably trimming at server side. Okay, let's do /chat ASDF. And I just want a bunch of commas. See, that works fine. ASDF, a bunch of commas, couple of parentheses, couple more commas, invalid parameters. That's interesting. But I think what we're going to do for now is we're going to put this into our known bugs. So let's go to our to-do here. And we will say something along the lines of trailing parentheses in chat messages are trimmed. They shouldn't be. Shouldn't be. And we'll also say something along the lines of it throws an invalid parameter when commas and parentheses in chat messages are combined. Okay, so those are known issues, and we will fix those at a later date. For now, though, chat is done-ish. We've got our infrastructure there, and next episode is actually not going to be this. Next episode is going to be a maintenance, which I'm thinking about doing about every week on Sundays, where it's going to be maybe a bit longer of an episode. It is going to be live development, and that is going to be working on these minor to-dos and these known issues. We're probably not going to get all of them done, but we might get most of them done, or some of them at least, and I just want to scratch some of these things off the to-do list about once a week. So that is what we're going to be doing in the next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.